Beloved Saints, today's 5-minute message of redemptive history is about Liu, from the genealogy according to the Line of Seth, from the first book Genesis Genealogies. In Genesis 11 verse 18, it says that Liu was the grandson of Eber, and he was the son born to Peleg at the age of 30. First, Liu was faithful in his relationship with other people. The meaning of Liu's name is friend. Probably, Peleg named his son Liu, hoping that he would develop good relationships in this world and find success. Instead of teaching his son to become a friend of God, he foolishly desired for his son to develop good social relationships with people of the sinful world. So it is truly regrettable that Liu did not foster his relationship with God and did not become a friend of God, but instead he was a friend of the world. During the time of Liu, because of the Tower of Babel incident, people began to speak in different languages when previously they were one community that spoke one language. In Genesis 11 verse 1, it says, "Now the whole earth used the same language and the same words." In Genesis 11 verse 9, then it says, "Therefore its name was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of the whole earth, and from there the Lord scattered them abroad over the face of the whole earth." So, the confusion of the languages by God probably led to the formation of new communities as people began to migrate from place to place, looking for others who spoke similar languages. Presumably, establishing new relationships and ties was the first priority in the new founded communities. And so Liu's name is an accurate reflection of a time in which friends who shared common interest and spirit were in desperate need. Everyone, the earthly relationships and friendships outside of God may seem good. However, these relationships cannot take responsibility over our lives, and in fact, our efforts may just become all meaningless. In Psalms 146 verses 3 to 5, it says, "Do not trust in princes, in mortal man, in whom there is no salvation. His spirit departs, he returns to the earth. In that very day his thoughts perish. How blessed is he whose help is the God of Jacob, whose hope is in the Lord his God." Everyone, let us not be so caught up in our earthly relationships in this world that cannot take charge over our lives. Instead, let us reconcile and build up our relationships with God, who gives us hope. I bless in the name of the Lord. Second, we must be worthy of being called a friend of God like Abraham. If we say that Liu was faithful in his friendship with other people in this world, then Abraham was someone that was acknowledged and called to be the friend of God. In Genesis 12 verse 1 and Acts 7 verse 3, it says that Abraham sought and followed the word of God. In response to God's calling, Abraham forfeited all that was life to him and severed his family ties and friendship. He did not know where he was headed, but he obeyed God's calling and began his new life as a sojourner. He left his home. He forfeited all of his relationships. He must have become so lonely. But the reason that he did all these things is because God has become his friend. Even though he did not have any friends in the world, God was his friend, and that's why it was all possible. In other words, he had such intimate relationship with God, and so God has shown him all his will. Psalms 25 verse 14, it says, "The secret of the Lord is for those who fear him, and he will make them know his covenant." And so when we see in 2 Chronicles 20 verse 7, Isaiah 41 verse 8, and James chapter 2 verse 23, all these verses say that God calls Abraham my friend. Beloved saints, today as we live our lives, let us not be so caught up in our friendship with this world and earthly relationships that cannot take care or take responsibility over our lives. Let us not become like Liu, but instead let us be like Abraham. even if we may not have these friendships, but let us be acknowledged and be called as God's friend. Let us follow this way of the covenant that God shows us, step by step. Let us be victorious. I bless in the name of the Lord.